Why is it that when you walk into a room, you instinctively soften your voice, take up less space, almost as if being quieter, more agreeable, might protect you from being dismissed or overlooked? Why is it that when someone ignores your feelings, your first reaction isn't anger, but doubt? Am I too sensitive? Am I asking for too much? And why is it that even when you achieve something, reach a goal, or receive praise, it still feels hard to fully accept it? You brush it off. You say, "It's nothing," as if being seen somehow makes you uncomfortable. If any of this feels familiar, then today isn't about confidence hacks or success strategies. We're going somewhere earlier and often less understood. We're talking about what happens when a child grows up feeling consistently overlooked, and why that child may still live inside you, shaping how you see yourself, how you enter relationships, and how you decide whether you're truly worthy of love. If you grew up with emotional neglect, you may have learned something very early. Visibility needs managing. In class, you rarely raised your hand. Even when you knew the answer, staying quiet felt safer. At family gatherings or social events, you weren't without thoughts, but you instinctively felt you shouldn't take up too much space. When expression repeatedly meets silence, the brain forms a prediction. Less presence may mean less disappointment. So you lower your volume, reduce your needs, avoid disturbing others. This isn't weakness, it's adaptation, something your nervous system learned. At work, you might put in significant effort yet hesitate to showcase results, partly to avoid the sting of being overlooked again, partly because attention still feels unfamiliar. So you stay modest, sometimes overly so, sometimes even carrying more than your share. In the short term, this reduces conflict. But over time, it makes genuine recognition harder, and the deeper shift happens inside. When someone habitually shrinks their presence, their sense of self-worth often contracts too. You begin questioning your importance. Even when affirmed, it can feel accidental. Becoming smaller may once have protected you, but in adulthood, it can quietly become a limit. Not because the world rejects you, but because you learned long ago to hide first. When a child's needs are repeatedly ignored, they often develop a different survival strategy: speak less. You may have seen moments like this: a child excitedly sharing something from school, only to hear, "Not now," or seeking comfort and receiving distraction, silence, or half-hearted attention. After a few times, they hesitate before speaking. After many more, they begin processing emotions alone, sometimes even suppressing them. Psychology often understands this as an adaptive adjustment. When responses remain absent, the brain reduces the impulse to express, to protect itself from repeated disappointment. And this pattern often continues into adulthood. At work, you may have ideas, but rarely push to voice them. In relationships, you might prioritize others' comfort over expressing your own fears, needs, or expectations. Over time, you may begin questioning yourself: are my needs too much? Are my feelings even important? So you become easygoing, low maintenance, undemanding, rarely difficult, but also rarely fully seen. Not because you don't need connection, but because early on you learned that hiding needs felt safer than expressing them. When a child grows up feeling overlooked, they often enter relationships with a quiet layer of unease. Closeness is supposed to bring comfort, yet for them it can trigger alertness instead. In romantic relationships, for example, when a partner suddenly shows warmth or deeper attention, the first reaction may not be joy, but concern. Will this disappear soon? Some respond by becoming highly attached, seeking constant reassurance that the connection remains secure. Others move the opposite direction, keeping emotional distance, appearing independent, calm, self-contained. Psychology links this to attachment patterns. When childhood responses were inconsistent, the brain learns to treat relationships as potential risk, and this influence extends beyond romance. In friendships, you might listen well yet rarely share yourself. At work, you collaborate effectively but struggle to fully trust. On the surface, you seem easygoing. Inside, a small exit door always remains open. This isn't coldness. It's your nervous system protecting parts of you that once felt unseen. But sustained vigilance can make relationships appear stable while quietly reducing ease. Over time, you might even wonder, is intimacy itself stressful? Yet, truly secure relationships don't demand constant guarding. They allow relaxation. And relearning that safety usually takes time, along with consistent experiences of being heard, acknowledged, and emotionally met. Children who grow up feeling overlooked often carry a deeper impact into adulthood, a gradual blurring of their sense of self. Identity doesn't form in isolation, it develops through reflection. When emotions are acknowledged, when thoughts are received, a child begins to internalize a quiet belief: I matter. But when responses are consistently absent, that confirmation never fully settles. As adults, you may find yourself placing others first almost automatically, choosing restaurants based on their preference, making decisions by prioritizing their comfort, sometimes even losing clarity about what you actually want. Not because you lack opinions, but because you learn to downplay them. Psychological research links emotional neglect to lower self-esteem, decision hesitation, and a less stable sense of identity. Yet this shift is often subtle. You function normally, work, socialize, live your life. Still, at times, a quiet thought surfaces. I could probably be replaced, so you try harder. You perform well, show fewer vulnerabilities, avoid giving anyone a reason to dismiss you. Gradually, life can feel more effortful, yet less authentic. But it's important to remember, this blurred sense of self is not your essence. It's a trace left by past environments. When new connections emerge, when your voice is heard consistently, identity begins to reassemble. Being overlooked shaped you. It doesn't have to define you. If you've listened this far, you may be noticing something. Those sensitive parts, the tendency to withdraw, or even extreme independence. They're not simply personality traits. They may be strategies you once needed to survive. In environments where attention was scarce, making yourself smaller was adaptation. It helped you get through childhood. But adaptations often linger. You learn to ask for less, to process emotions alone, to check others' comfort before your own. And slowly you may forget something essential. You also deserve to be seen. Healing rarely arrives dramatically. It seldom transforms life overnight. More often it begins in small moments, acknowledging that your past did affect you, expressing a need even if your voice trembles, choosing not to invalidate yourself when attention is missing. The nervous system learns. Every time you're heard, understood, respected, it gently revises old expectations. Over time, something shifts. You begin existing with slightly more ease, not more perfect, just more real. Real change often starts here, not forcing yourself to become stronger, but stopping the habit of overlooking yourself. Because being ignored shaped you, but it was never your definition. This is happy psychology. May you understand yourself with more clarity and meet change without losing who you are. See you next time.